Isang maganda at nagliliyab na hapon sa ating lahat. Kami ang Group 1 na kung saan pag-uusapan natin ang isang antasyon ni Jose Rizal, ang Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas ni Antonio Morga, na kung saan ginawa upang itama ang mga pagkiling sa kasaysayan at ipakita na may mataas na antas ang kabihasnan ng mga Pilipino bago pa man dumating ang mga Espanyol. Layunin nitong gisingin ang makabayang damdamin ng mga Pilipino at ipaglaban ang katotohanan sa kasaysayan ng ating bansa. At the end of the lesson, the student should be analyze Rizal's ideas on how to rewrite Philippine history. 2. Compare and contrast Rizal's and Morga's different views about the Philippines and Philippine culture. Rizal's journey from Philippines to abroad. Ang Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas ni Antonio de Morga ay inilathala noong 1609. Ay isang mahalagang tala ng kasaysayan ng Pilipinas sa panahon ng kolonisasyon ng Espanya. Tinatalakay nito ang pampolitika, panlipunan at pang-ekonomiyang kalagayan ng bansa mula sa pananaw ng isang Espanyol. Bagaman may pagkiling, ito'y naging mahalagang batayan ni Dr. Jose Rizal upang itama ang maling pananaw tungkol sa mga Pilipino at patunayan na may maunlad na kabihasnan ang bansa bago pa man dumating ang mga Espanyol. Ang Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas ay sinulat mula sa pananaw ni Antonio de Morga bilang isang opisyal ng Espanya. Kalaunan, inedit at inannotate ito ni Dr. Jose Rizal upang ipakita ang tunay na kalagayan ng mga Pilipino bago ang pananakop. Isinulat ni Rizal ang kanyang anotasyon habang siya ay nasa London. Matapos niyang makuha ang kopya ng aklat mula sa British Museum, ang bagong edisyon ay sinamahan ito ng prologo mula kay Dr. Ferdinand Blumentritt, isang malapit na kaibigan at taga-suporta ni Jose Rizal.
Next, we are going to tackle the 8 chapters of Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. Chapter 1, we have Magellan and Legazpi's expedition. The chapter begins with the voyage of Ferdinand Magellan. In 1521, he led the first European expedition to reach the Philippine archipelago. Sinundan naman ito ni Miguel Lopez de Legazpi noong 1565 at naging kauna-unahang gobernador ng Pilipinas. Also describes the defeat of Magellan. Magellan was killed in the Battle of Mactan dahil sa pagkikipagsagupaan sa pangkat ni Lapu-Lapu. Successful pacification of Adelantado Miguel de Legazpi from the islands of Cebu and Luzon. He arrived in Cebu and established Spain's first permanent settlement, and he also expanded Spanish influence to Luzon. Chapter 2, Dr. Francisco de Sande appointed as the governor of the Philippines. The submission and pacification of the islands continued. Captain Pedro Chavez took control of the province of Camarines, while Captain Esteban Rodriguez de Figueroa pacified the island of Hulu. Ipinapakita lamang nito na mas lumawak pa ang impluwensya ng kolonyalistang Espanyol dahil sa militar na kontrol. Don Gonzalo Ronquillo de Peñalosa replaced Dr. Sande as a governor and captain general of the island. Chapter 3, 1580, Don Gonzalo Ronquillo de Peñalosa appointed governor of the Philippines. The first order in the Philippines were established by friars Antonio Sedeno and Alonso Sanchez. Pinapakita lamang nito ang kapangyarihang hawak ng mga Espanyol, partikular na ang mga friars noong panahong iyon. 1583, namatay si Don Gonzalo Ronquillo due to poor health. That's why Diego Ronquillo, kinsman of Don Gonzalo, succeeded and assumed the governorship and continued the pacification in the islands. Next, we have Chapter 4. Dr. Santiago de Vera appointed as the governor of the Philippines. He discovered the planned rebellion and insurrection among the native chiefs of Manila and Pampanga. It only shows that even though there is a Spanish colonialization, there is still a resistance to natives. Fortress of Nuestra Señora de Guia o Baluarte de Santiago was built within the city of Manila on the land side. Pinapakita lamang nito kung gaano kapangyarihan ang mga Espanyol.
Dumako naman tayo sa Chapter 5, kung saan ipinamanuan ito ni Governor General Gomez Perez Las Carillas. At under sa kanya ay pinalakas ang depensa ng Manila sa pamamagitan ng pagpapatayo ng pader, paggawa ng barko, at pag-iimbak ng pagkain. So, nagkaroon kasi ng conflict ang mga Chino at Hapon na ninirahan sa Manila. So, pinayapa niya ito at pinanghalaan. Nagplano din si Dasmariñas ng ekspedisyon papuntang Molucas, pero siya ay napatay ng mga tauhang Chino sa kanyang barko. Nagkaroon din ng kaguluhan sa kanyang pamumuno dahil nga sa kanyang pagkamatay sa mismo kanyang barko. Nagkaroon ng political instability and succession issues following to his death. So, increasing the threats and attacks of foreign powers such Chinese, Dutch, and Japanese. So, darako naman tayo ngayon sa Chapter 6. Sa Chapter 6 naman ay madalas salakayin ng mga Hollandes o Dutch at iba pang dayuhan ang Manila. So, ang Manila ay naging prone sa mga pananakop and may mga alitan na hindi na pagkaunawaan sa pagitan ng mga Hapon, Chino at Espanyol during the time. So, pinapatagpalalo ang depensa ng Manila. At during internal revolts and unrest among local population, nagkaroon din namang pag-aalsa at hindi pagkakasundo sa mga lokal na mamamayan. Nagkaroon din ng malaking papel ang mga praile at lokal na pinuno sa pagpapanatili ng kapayapaan at kontrol ng mga Espanyol. Darako naman tayo ngayon sa ikapitong kabanata. Pinamuruan naman ito ni Governor Juan de Silva at ang mga Spanish efforts due to major military expedition and attempts to expel Dutch from their region. So, pinatatag niya ang pader at depensa ng Manila. Same as the Chapter 5 and Chapter 6. Parang isa na lang din ginawa nila to defend the Philippines even they're not a full Filipino. So, sinikap niya nga panatili ang kapangyarihan ng mga Espanyol at ayusin ang mga problema sa loob ng bansa. Nagkaroon din ng challenge sa governance nila, sa pamumuno nila, dahil sa sunod-sunod na banta at problema sa pamahalaan. Sa Chapter 8 naman, the nature of the regions or the environment or the geography, kung saan sinulat niya ito ni Antonio de Morga. Nakafocus lahat ang mga Filipino aspect in this chapter during their mga inhabitants o yung mga taong tira dito. Isa-isa din tinalakay ang mga tribo o mga Pilipinong mamamayan sa chapter 8. So, the manner of governing and converting them, how they were ruled and introduced to Christian. So, nagkaroon ng conversion sa mga katutubong Pilipino para maisalin sila sa Christianismo.
Antonio de Morga ay isang abogadong Espanyol at opisyal na pamahalaan noong ika-17 siglo. Isa rin siyang historical anthropologist na naging isang bahagi ng pamahalaang kolonyal ng Pilipinas. Siya ang may akda ng Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, isang mahalagang aklat na naglalarawan sa mga pangyayari, kultura at lipunan ng Pilipinas noong panahon ng pananakop ng mga Espanyol. Si Antonio de Morga ay may doktorado sa Canon at Sibil Law. Bilang isang abogadong Espanyol at opisyal ng pamahalaan noong ika-17 siglo, isinulat niya ang Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas upang itampok ang mga tagumpay ng mga Espanya sa pananakop at pamamahala ng Pilipinas. Layunin ng aklat na ipakita kung paano pinalawak ng Espanya ang impluwensya nito sa mga isla. Gayon din ang mga ginawa nilang pagbabago sa lipunan, politika at ekonomiya ng bansa mula sa pananaw ng isang kolonyal na opisyal.
Good day everyone. Now let's proceed to my part. Why did Rizal annotate Morga's Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas? First, he was in the phase of trying to assert that everything Spaniard told us about who we are as a people were mostly lies of manipulation. Gusto niyang patunayan na yung mga sinasabi ng mga Kastila tungkol sa mga Pilipino ay madalas hindi totoo at para kontrolin lang tayo. Parang sinasabi ni Rizal, teka muna, hindi naman talaga nangyari yan. Rizal felt that the Spanish colonizers had painted a false picture of Filipino culture, suggesting that Filipino were uncivilized before their arrival. So, gusto niyang ipakita na yung mga Pilipino ay may sariling mayamang kasaysayan at maayos na pamumuhay bago pa dumating ang mga Espanyol. Second, he was encouraged by Ferdinand Blumentritt, a respected scholar of the Philippines. Ferdinand Blumentritt, who knew a lot of Filipino history and culture, likely suggested that examining historical accounts like Morga's would be a valuable way to understand the past. Parang siya yung naging mentor ni Rizal. Rizal carefully chose Morga's book for specific reasons. He didn't just pick any old book. He saw Morga's work as a particularly useful source, kaya yun yung ginamit niya. Morga's book was considered a more objective account from someone who witnessed events firsthand. Kahit na Kastila si Morga, his position as a high-ranking official meant he had direct experience with the Philippines and its people. Para kay Rizal, mas reliable siyang eyewitness kumpara sa mga sulat ng mga purely religious accounts. The Sucesos was the only known historical account of the Philippines written by the Spaniard that focused on both civil and political events. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang tungkol sa relihiyon yung libro, kundi pati na rin sa mga pamamahala at buhay ng mga tao. So, Morga's books offered a broader view of Filipino society. Because it was more secular, not primarily religious, the book was seen as a potentially more factual in its description. Rizal believed that a non-religious account might offer a less biased perspective on Filipino culture and society. Morga's writings, in some ways, showed a degree of understanding and even sympathy towards the native Filipinos. While he's still a product of his time, Morga's observations weren't always entirely negative, which Rizal could use to highlight positive aspects of pre-colonial Filipino life. Morga was considered a trustworthy primary source. As someone who lived in the Philippines and held an important position, his account carried weight. Rizal knew that using such a source would make his argument more credible. Rizal's annotation of Morga's book would become one of the very first historical analysis of the Philippines written by Filipino himself. This was incredibly significant because it offered a Filipino perspective on their own history, challenging the dominant Spanish narrative. It was a powerful act of reflecting their past and reclaiming their past. And now, let's revisit those main points from the chapter 8 and think about the deeper implications of Rizal's responses. So we have the first one. Morga says, he commented on the food, battering practices, worship of Anitas, and many more. Rizal says that Filipinos had already a thriving culture and practices before Spain arrived. So Morga documented various aspects of Filipino life, including their diet, hygiene habits, religious beliefs, and other customs. Rizal, looking back on Morga's account, emphasizes that this detailed information proved that Filipino possess their own well-developed culture and established ways of life even before the Spanish colonies began. So here's the second one. Morga says, Filipinos have a strange set of cultural practices, beliefs, and worldviews. Rizal says, Filipino have a unique sense of cultural that they own. So Morga, viewing Filipino culture through Spanish lens, describe their practices, beliefs, and overall understanding of the world as strange. Rizal refutes this by stating that the Filipinos' culture was simply distinct and belonged to them. It was their own unique way of life, not necessarily odd or inferior just because it differed from Spanish customs. Yeah. So here's the last one. Morga says, despite trying to be objective in describing the culture of the native inhabitants, Morga implied that Spain brought civilization to the Philippines. Rizal counters that idea that Spain brought civilization to the Philippines. For him, it's the opposite. There was already a civilized life in the islands. Spain came and brought darkness. The challenge for Filipinos is to gain independence. While Morga attempted to describe Filipino culture factually, his writing subtly suggested that Spain introduced civilization to the Philippines. Rizal strongly disagrees with this notion. He argues that Philippines already had its own form of civilization before the Spanish arrived. In Rizal's view, Spanish colonization actually brought negative consequences, darkness, to the existing Philippine society. He believed that the primary goal for Filipinos was to achieve independence from the Spanish rule.
Lastly, the importance of Rizal's annotation to Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. We have two main reasons. First is to awaken the consciousness of the Filipinos. Rizal wanted us Filipinos to become aware of our true history and identity. He hoped that through this, he will encourage and foster a strong sense of nationalism to Filipinos that would fight for our own identity and rights. Second is to correct what has been distorted about the Philippines, like the so-called indolence of Filipinos. Rizal strongly rejected that claim and in-emphasize niya na hindi naman talaga likas na tamad ang mga Pilipino. Bagkus isang dahilan ay dahil sa pagkolonya mismo ng mga Espanyol. And the idea that the Philippines was uncivilized before Spanish arrival. He stated the facts na even nung wala pang ang Espanyol ay mayroon ng mga customs and local governance like yung mga datus. And in fact, ayon pa nga kay Rizal na ang Espanya ang dahilan ng pag-uncivilize ng Pilipinas. These are just some of the misconceptions in the Philippine history and napahalaga na ang ng pag-annotate ni Rizal sapagkat kung hindi ito na isaayos, maaring nananatili pa rin ang mga ganitong konsepto sa history ng Pilipinas magpas hanggang ngayon. Sabi nga ni Rizal na to foretell the destiny of a nation, it is necessary to open the book that tells her past, emphasizing the importance of knowing the history to shape a nation.